in 4.5 minutes, even though we have a 500-page document, but you go right ahead.
Fast.
Read the additional business, Howard. The additional business on this.
Good morning, Honorable Mayor and members of the committee. My name is
Okay,
Zach.
we'll let you get set up.
Nope.
You're good to just read. It looks like he's set.
Yep. Yeah.
Go ahead and read additional business, Howard, and then we'll.
Additional business item number one, staff from the finance department will present the results of the independent audit for the fiscal year ending April 30th, 2025, including the annual comprehensive financial report, popular annual financial report, and uniform guidance report.
Mr. Mayor, members of the committee, my name is Zach Byram, the city controller. I'm here today to present on our audit results for 2025. And with me are our external auditors. I'll allow them to introduce themselves.
Jonathan Nyberger with AGH.
Brian Welch, Welch and Associates.
I'll go through my part incredibly quickly. So basically you have the 500-page annual report copy with you there. Some light reading next time you need to fall asleep. If you would like a condensed version, we also provided you with a popular report, which is a 20-page version of the same report that is geared towards more non-financial audiences. So probably is a bit more useful for you and your constituents to review. Copies of these are available on our website, and we are happy to produce additional paper copies as necessary. In terms of our financial results, really I'll just go over our government-wide statement of net position and state that our net position has increased from last year, which is indication of strong health financially. And part of the reason we do this audit is because our external auditors help ensure that the accuracy of these financial statements do properly reflect our financial results. As you might imagine, tracking the $2.7 billion that runs through our government can be complicated. And so we rely on them heavily to make sure that we are tracking it correctly. And so to talk through the sort of results of those audits, I'll turn it over to John.
Thank you. First off, in the financial statements is our auditor's report. The auditor's report includes standards for the audit, but most importantly, the opinion that we issued. On the graphic there, you can see that we issued an unmodified opinion. An unmodified opinion is the highest and best opinion that an entity can receive. We did, however, note a couple findings which are discussed in our separate auditor's communication letter to those charged with governance. Probably skip ahead to those. In the auditor's communication letter, it's about an 8-page letter that all of you should have. It keeps you informed of key matters related to the audit. The internal control issues that we noted are discussed on pages 5 through 7. The first issue was a material weakness in controls related to year-end reconciliations, and we recommended that the city implement controls to reconcile and properly record year-end balances due to some adjustments that were made during the year. Similarly, we noted multiple revisions and adjustments to the city's schedule of expenditures of federal awards. We recommend again that the city strengthen its schedule of expenditures of federal awards preparation, as well as a review process to ensure that everything is properly reported. And I'd also like to thank all of the city staff for their help. An audit is a very large undertaking, and we appreciate all their assistance and cooperation in completing the audit. I'll turn it over now to Brian Welch, who is our MBE partner that completed the audit of federal programs.
Thank you. So the city received about $140 million of federal expenditures across about 50 programs. And
How much again? How much? The number?
About 143 million.
Okay.
Across about 50 programs. So we had to select, turned out 5 of the programs for audit as major programs, and we had to cover $57 million of your expenditures. Of the 5 programs, do you have them listed on here?
Oh, yep, it should be that slide there. Sorry. Major programs review.
They're the major programs right there. So the housing opportunities, let me do it this way. So on 4 of the programs, the opinion that we issued was unmodified. On 1 of those programs, we did have a finding, and that was on the housing opportunities for person with AIDS grant. There was a failure to essentially monitor your subrecipients. So the city just needs to put in place some procedures to monitor the subrecipients, make sure that they're receiving their audits and go through those audits. And and make sure that they're operating the programs appropriately. Um, The one program that we issued an unmodified opinion was the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds. And again, we had one finding there. This is what led to the qualification. And what we found here was we selected 7 samples out of a salary, and 5 of the samples, the information was not available. And so there's this concept called likely question cost. So we're doing a projection to the total. It was 252,000. We didn't find 252,000, but that's the likely amount as we project the sample results to the population. Again, we want to thank everyone. The audit went well this year. The status of the prior year findings, I just like to always mention that all prior year findings were cleared. So there are no repeat findings, which was not the case last year. We had a couple repeats, so all the prior year findings were cleared. And the city has implemented a corrective action plan, which is explained on page 25 of a report that it's not part of it's not part of the 2 reports you received, but it should have been handed out today. You guys have that report? Perfect.
Yeah.
So the corrective action plan implemented by the city begins on page 25. We don't audit the corrective action plan, so there's nothing to talk about there.
Understood. Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah.
All right, other questions for this?
Oh, I'm sorry.
August group. Hearing none, we appreciate it. We'll look forward to the report and we'll share it with our colleagues. Thank you for the time.
Thank you very much.
Howard, we'll go to our last ordinance for today.
1028, amending chapter 50 Code of Ordinances by enacting a new section 50-206 and 50-207 for the purpose of prohibiting the sale of certain psychoactive substances and dangerous chemical inhalants within the city.
Thank you. Good morning, Honorable Mayor, committee members, staff. My name is Lace Klein, and I'm Director of Public Safety for the Mayor's Office. And joining me are Joe Williamson, the Director of the Multidisciplinary Public Safety Task Force, and Connor Swan, Legislative Aide for Council. Today, we are presenting on Committee Substitute 251028, which relates to unregulated kratom products, nitrous oxide and nitrate poppers commonly sold at gas stations, vape shops, and convenience stores. As mentioned, this is a committee substitute. The original ordinance contemplated regulating a laundry list of substances, and feedback that we've received as we've been doing community engagement over the past 2 months was to separate these substances to make it more digestible for the community and for council. And so we're only going to be talking about the kratom products again, nitrous oxide and nitrate poppers.
And just so everybody's clear, in case they're here for different things, there are 3 subject areas. There was one relating to cannabinoids, cannabis in drinks. That is no longer part of the ordinance. Synthetic drug, yes, that's just lives somewhere else.
Correct.
Right.
There, I anticipate.
Yeah, just it's out. So we'll
Yeah.
just not even give it time. And then there's the synthetic substance side, 7-OH being one such example, right? And then there's the kratom and others, which will be treated in some way, right?
Yes, Mayor.
Right. Got it. Thank you.
So the retail sale of unregulated, unadulterated and unadulterated psychoactive product substances pose increased public health and public safety concerns for Kansas Cityans. Certain challenges associated with the sale of these unregulated products include lack of age restrictions, inconsistent or misleading labeling, increased risk of misuse, dependency, and substance-related health issues. The purpose of Committee Substitute 251028 is to protect public safety and public health by regulating the retail sale of unregulated kratom products and other psychoactive substances. Additionally, the purpose is to hold retailers accountable for the sale of harmful, unregulated intoxicants that contribute to adverse public health and safety impacts, public disorder, and nuisance activity, as well as community harm. Research shows that there is a correlation between outlet density pertaining to smoke shops and increased public safety related issues and nuisance activity. So before I walk through an overview of the ordinance and the substances that it covers, I just want to, make sure that it's clear that about my role. So I am not a medical professional or a chemical expert. As the joke goes, people who are skilled at science become doctors, and those who are not become lawyers. And so I will be explaining what this ordinance does and why it's being proposed, and why the recommended approach is what it is. And I anticipate that there will be a lot of public comment on the complex scientific landscape regarding these products. So this committee substitute would create two new sections in Chapter 50. The first would be Section 50-206 related to kratom products. That would prohibit the retail sale and distribution of semi-synthetic and synthetic kratom products such as 7-OH, as well as prohibiting the retail sale and display of permissible unadulterated kratom products to those who are under 21. And unadulterated is essentially a natural product from the kratom leaf or kratom leaf abstract. Adulterated products include additions of fentanyl and other controlled substances, synthetic alkaloids, and semi-synthesized alkaloids, or other substances that are currently prohibited by law. And then the other section that this would create is Section 50-207, which relates to dangerous chemical inhalants, and it would prohibit the retail sale of these products. Both sections create tools for the city to suspend or revoke the business licenses of those who violate, as well as impose criminal penalties for violations. Additionally, both sections would deem violators as a public nuisance. So first, we will talk about kratom. So kratom is a tropical tree native to Southeast Asia. Common forms that you typically see kratom products in are tablets, capsules, extracts, powders, teas, and drinks, or shots that kind of mimic or look like those 5-hour energy drink shots. Common uses for kratom products include self-treating pain, coughing, diarrhea, anxiety, depression, opioid use disorder, and opioid withdrawal. Intoxicating and adverse effects include it having both a stimulant and a sedative effect, making it an atypical opioid. At lower doses, it has the more stimulant type effects, and at higher doses, it has the more sedative type of effects. The adverse effects can lead to psychotic symptoms and physical or psychological dependence. As far as the legal status, kratom is not currently regulated by the state or federal government although legislation has been introduced at both levels. There is a typographical error. There is no federal legislation related to kratom that would go in effect on November 12th. That relates to the cannabinoids and other drug products there. And this is just a depiction of different formats that you can obtain kratom in. So you have the supplement, the mini shots that I mentioned, and then powdered format. So the next product would be 7-OH or 7-hydroxymitragynine. And so what 7-OH is it's a naturally occurring alkaloid in the kratom plant that occurs in trace amounts. And so it naturally occurs in the plant, but in a dry weight of no more than 0.1 to 0.4%. What this means is that most products that are on the shelves are either synthetically derived or semi-synthetic. Common forms of 7-OH include tablets, gummies, drink mixes, and again, those little shots that look kind of like 5-hour energy drinks. Similar to unadulterated or natural kratom, common uses include self-treating pain, anxiety, depression, opioid use disorder, and opioid withdrawal. The intoxicating and adverse effects include euphoria, sedation, and respiratory depression. 7-OH is not currently regulated by the state or federal government, although again, legislation has been introduced at both levels. Additionally, the DOJ states that such products are illegal. The FDA has identified 7-OH as an emergency public health threat with a significant addiction potential. So here you'll see common ways that you can obtain 7-OH. So the tablet format here, and then these just come from various online sources. This product here is a chewable tab called Dope. And so this is actually a product that you can obtain at a vape shop in Kansas City. And then again, it says it's a dietary supplement. However, the FDA has not regulated this. On the back of it, I want to call to attention a couple of things. So one of those is that it says these statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, or cure or prevent any disease. Additionally, you'll see that the suggested use for an adult is to chew a quarter of a tablet in a 6-hour period. Do not exceed more than half a tablet in 2 hours. Again, if you go back to looking at how small this tablet is and the recommendation related to chewing a quarter, it's nearly impossible to comply with that. If you think about those like Welch's fruit snacks that kids commonly like, and I myself enjoy eating my goddaughter's products, it's very impossible to eat just one. You continue to go back snacking for more. And so how can we have the expectation that consumers are only going to chew a quarter of this? The next thing that I want to call out on the product warning is while the supplement facts say that it's got 10 milligrams of 7-OH and a caffeine metabolite, if you look at the health and safety warning, it actually says this product contains psychoactive alkaloids, which may include mitragynine, 7-hydroxymitragynine, and mitragynine pseudoindoxyl, which means we don't really know what's in these products, making them very difficult for consumers to safely consume and be aware of what they're consuming. Kratom and 7-OH are not FDA approved for any medical use. Currently, and the FDA does warn against use for medical treatment. They've said that there's no prescription or over-the-counter products that contain kratom or its known alkaloids that are legally on the market in the U.S. Law enforcement agencies have identified kratom and 7-OH as drugs and chemicals of concern. Our health department has recommended a total ban on kratom and its derivatives, or at minimum, regulating the substance. I do also want to note that I believe in July, the FDA indicated that it is going to focus more on 7-OH and the synthetic kratom-related products, and that leads to part of what the committee substitute seeks to do as far as introducing a regulatory framework for kratom. So in the ordinance, the proposed banned products are adulterated kratom products. So again, those semi-synthetic and synthetic alkaloids or products that contain other illicit substances. Additionally, kratom products that contain more than 2% of 7-hydroxymitragynine would also be banned. This is in line with proposed legislation at the state government. Kratom products that are manufactured, packaged, or distributed in a way that's appealing to children, including in a confectionery form or in a form that mimics candy products, would be banned, as well as kratom products that are combustible or intended for vaporization. So basically, kratom products that you can smoke. And then finally, kratom products that contain, again, that synthetic or semi-synthetic alkaloid. Permissible kratom products that would be allowed to be sold under the proposed committee substitute are unadulterated kratom products. So again, that natural kratom leaf products and kratom leaf extracts, and kratom unadulterated products that contain less than 2% of the 7-hydroxymitragynine in the alkaloid faction. With respect to the permissible sale of the kratom products, this ordinance proposes to make it unlawful to sell, offer, deliver, or distribute kratom products to people under the age of 21. And it would also make it unlawful to display these products in a manner that allows it to be accessed by people under 21. So for example, it would have to be sold behind the shelf rather than just being easily available in the retail storefront. There are also additional proposed requirements to sell unadulterated kratom, which include a licensing structure. So retailers would be required to pay a license and to obtain a license from the city and pay a fee to be determined. Additionally, retailers must require proof of age to make sure that the individuals purchasing these products are 21 or older. Reasonable reliance on proof of age is a defense, and the common way, of course, for showing proof of age is through an ID. Going back to the licensing and fee structure, this ordinance proposes that the city, a direction to the city manager or his designee to develop a proposed kratom retail licensing framework, including application requirements and proposed license fees, which would then be used to support the enforcement leg of the ordinance. That proposal would then be presented to City Council for review and approval within 45 days of the passage of the committee substitute. And finally, again, all of the semi-synthetic and synthetic products would have a total ban. So this only seeks to regulate the natural products, but it outright bans the semi-synthetic and adulterated products. Switching gears to section 50-207 of the ordinance, this would prohibit the retail sale or distribution of dangerous chemical inhalants for recreational use. So these include nitrous oxide and nitrate poppers. And so first we'll talk about nitrous oxide. So what is it? It's a colorless gas that's used clinically as an inhalational anesthetic and analgesic and anxiotic. So basically to numb you, to relieve pain, or to reduce anxiety. Essentially what nitrous oxide is laughing gas, but it is commonly sold for recreational use as well in the form of whippets. Usually you'll see it if it's sold on at like smoke shops and convenience stores. It'll usually be in an aerosol container that looks like it's used to dispense whipped cream essentially. Again, there are medical uses for it. This ordinance would not prohibit the medical uses. It would only prohibit retail sale for recreational use because that's how it's commonly abused. The intoxicating and adverse effects include rapid euphoria and hallucinogenic effects. It can cause severe neurological, cardiovascular, and psychiatric symptoms with repeat use. Again, these products are legal, but the FDA recommends that consumers not inhale these products as it can result in serious adverse health effects, including death when inhaled. And so for those reasons, the FDA recommends against the recreational use of these products. And this is just an example of forms that whippets come in that are sold at a variety type of shops. The next substances at issue are nitrate poppers. And so nitrate is a liquid chemical substance that produces vapors, and it can occur in many formats. Typically, you see it in containers that look like energy shots. It's also commonly marketed as household cleaning products like room deodorizers or even nail polish. It's typically inhaled or ingested for recreational use or sexual enhancement. And the intoxicating and adverse effects include warm sensations and dizziness that disappears quickly, rapid heartbeats, severe drops in blood pressure, and death. The legal status, these currently exist in a gray area. They are illegal to sell for human consumption. And so what section 50-207 would do is, again, prohibit the retail sale and delivery of these products for recreational use. That means you wouldn't be able to sell them in shops like tobacco shops, head shops, vape shops, liquor stores, convenience stores, or any business where the substance is distributed for human consumption, regardless of how it's labeled or packaged. Again, to get through this gray area, they are typically in the format of common household products. Section 50-207 does have exceptions. It would not apply to manufacturing or industrial operations, food prep for restaurants, food services, or housewares when the retailer is regularly involved in such businesses, or licensed medical or dental practitioners. Again, these are all considered legal uses and don't pertain to recreational use. Now I'm going to talk about the administrative penalties and criminal penalties that relate to both section 50-206 and 50-207. So first, with respect to administrative enforcement and penalties applicable to both sections, this committee substitute would give the Public Safety Task Force Director or his designee the authority to inspect business licenses and document and issue notices of these violations, which would then go to the Finance Director or Commissioner of Revenue. The Finance Director would be responsible for enforcement, which would include suspension or revocation of a business license. Additionally, daily violations would be considered separate offenses, and again, violations would be deemed a public nuisance. Criminal penalties that would apply to both sections include 15 days to 6 months imprisonment and or a fine of $750 to $1,000. Daily violations are again separate offenses, and I want to note that this would apply to the owners, operators, managers, employees, and agents of the retailers. The purpose for the criminal penalties is, again, there are public safety concerns and links to smoke shop outlet density and increased nuisance activity and public safety issues in communities. So in sum, this committee substitute seeks to balance public health and consumer awareness as well as public safety in line with proposed state and federal regulation. It would regulate the retail sale of unadulterated or natural kratom and prohibit the sale of adulterated products, including semi-synthetics and synthetic kratom products. It would prohibit the retail sale of nitrous oxide and nitrate poppers for recreational use, and it would impose administrative and criminal penalties on retailers who violate, including a public nuisance declaration. The debate surrounding unregulated kratom and 7-H, again, it's a complex landscape and has strong arguments on both sides. What the proposed ordinance seeks to do through regulating the natural products is to overall reduce harm. We don't want these products shifting into a black market, and we just want to make sure that consumers are, again, aware of what they're consuming and that there are limits on the products that are being sold. And with that, I will take any questions.
All right. Just for clarity, then, we have, like I started with, the different categories. So for natural kratom, i.e. unadulterated, it adds a regulatory system. The regulation will be that sales for those under 21 years of age are prohibited, and then the city manager is to craft a regulatory scheme with it.
Correct.
For adulterated kratom and other synthetic products, perhaps, there would be a ban as to their sale in Kansas City.
Yes.
Right. And then that's kind of it, right, in terms of what we're looking to do. All right. Questions from the committee? Start with Councilman Curls.
I'm sure I'll have other questions, but my first one is, under the proposed requirements, slide 15, you've got retailers must obtain a license and pay a fee. Is that going to be under regulated industries, or who's going to be responsible for the, I guess, regulatory aspect of this?
Yes, it's currently contemplated that regulated industries would be responsible for enforcement of that. And then again, the city manager, whereas designee, would develop the proposed framework, including the licensing fees and application requirements.
Okay. I'll yield to Councilman Ray.
Councilman Ray?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do we have anyone here from the health department
We do.
available? Okay.
Kat,
Someone who's a scientist or chemist, great, thank you.
the policy person for the health department.
Okay.
Good morning, I'm Kat Stark.
Martin, you might have an answer to my question. Or Ms. Klein, you might. I don't know. So we are distinguishing between adulterated kratom and unadulterated synthetic versus non-synthetic. Is there any gray area between those two that we need to be aware of as we impose enforcement on folks? Is there a hard scientific line that we could point to and say, this is kratom that is adulterated, this is kratom that is not adulterated?
So unfortunately, because there is not a standardized language, there's not standardized testing, we would rely on the package to say whether it's natural or not, which typically you can tell on the package whether it's been synthetically by the concentration of 7-OH, whether
Okay.
it's synthetic or not.
Because 7-OH seems like the obvious example of something that is synthetic. And I don't know what other forms of unsynthetic kratom might exist that might be less obvious.
I think I can chime in here. So back to like, for instance, 7-OH. As I mentioned, it is found naturally in the kratom plant, but it's found in trace amounts, which are 0.01 to 0.04%, which means, for instance, like the dope product that says it has 10 milligrams. That means to get to that level, you either have to have an abundance of the kratom leaf or you're putting semi-synthetic or other products in that to get to that level. And so that goes back to, again, the consumer awareness of you don't really know what's actually in the products there. And that also is in line with, like, you know, the ability to test those products. And so part of why the proposed requirement is the licensing fee is so that we can have a mechanism to enforce and test products to make sure that they are legal.
Okay. From a chemistry perspective, I feel that folks can be pretty creative with how they manufacture products. And I want to make sure we're setting ourselves up for success in how to figure out what these things are and take whatever necessary action needs to be taken. And I see there is a bullet point in here about the health department. Sounds like the health department's recommendation is a broader ban than what is in this ordinance. Is that fair? It says the Kansas City Health Department recommends a total ban of kratom, or at a minimum regulating the substance. And so,
Correct.
okay. And I think that's important. The health department assumes that health experts, public health experts, scientists, chemists have reviewed this and made a recommendation as well. Okay.
Councilman Curls.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to talk about the proposed legislation at the state and the federal government, I guess. Is there any proposed at the feds? I think you mentioned that was maybe a typo.
Yes, so there's been proposed legislation throughout the years. So I believe the most recent proposed federal legislation that did not pass was in 2023. Last year, so around the same time that this ordinance was introduced, you also started seeing a lot more action from cities and states, including Missouri, surrounding kratom. And so I believe most recently, Senate Bill 927 and House Bill 2700 were introduced a couple of weeks ago at the state. And so this proposed ordinance would mimic Senate Bill 927, which creates the regulatory framework for the natural products, but then again, having the ban on the synthetic products.
Yeah, because that's my question is that if there's some legislation that's introduced, presuming that it'll pass, I don't know, I don't want us to pass something and then it is superseded by the state legislation that overrides or overturns what we're doing. So, and I think that you answered that question. This legislation or this ordinance is somewhat mirrored to the Senate bill that's being proposed.
Yes, for those very reasons, not wanting to make sure that we're preempted under that proposed legislation. It does talk about, like, you know, the cities can develop the licensing framework and things like that. There's a lot of different legislation that representatives and senators keep introducing. So there is, I think it's House Bill 2700, which this doesn't mirror. It proposes a lower age restriction of 18 and older.
And is there, or are there other localities or cities around us that have similar ordinance or legislation concerning this? Or are we the only ones that?
I believe that Joplin is working on a framework. They also were looking at, like, basically the gas station drug ban type of ordinance that we were doing. And I'm happy to get more information on what other cities and municipalities have implemented these regulations.
Councilman Rogers.
So, I'm inclined to support this. The one thing that has given me a little bit of pause is the penalty for people who sell adulterated kratom. And I know we're not actually going to put somebody in jail for 6 months, but that is pretty stiff. And, we've been, we talk about the war on drugs and that has been particularly effective. And, and I think that's good. We're evolving to this next stage in whatever we put into our bodies. But I guess I don't really have a question as much as I just want that on everyone's radar. Is that a pretty stiff penalty for?
Yes,
For something
so
like
that
this.
penalty is there to deter people from violating. Again, we're seeing significant issues surrounding smoke shops and convenience stores, gas stations that sell these types of products, as well as what will be in the forthcoming companion ordinance. And so it's meant to deter. We were very intentional about regulating the retail sales, so not punishing those who for mere possession of the products, but trying to hold retailers whose based on their sales practices, allow harmful types of activity to occur on or around their property, and then it spills out into the community.
I hear that, and I see that side of it too. But it's just anytime we're criminalizing anything related to drug use, I think it's worth having that conversation, and especially in our city is shaped so funny that in a lot of places our city you can cross the street and it's not a crime. So anyway, like I said, I'm supportive. I just think it's
And Councilman Matt was
worth the
asking an addendum to this question. I mean, looking at slide 24, the bigger concern is the 15 days to 6 months, which I imagine maybe there's a typo here in all of that. I'm used to our code of ordinances giving violation lengths that are up to a certain period. But are we suggesting a minimum? I mean, kind of what's 15 days doing here?
So, yes, it was suggesting that as a minimum, again, to deter. So
Understood on the criminal procedure principles, just have some concern. I don't like, sentencing guidelines fundamentally in some ways. And so it seems like creating that, I would just co-sign perhaps with Councilman Rogers' point.
a lot of the, as I've been in different meetings with neighborhood leaders and CID leaders, a lot of the common feedback relates to there's not enough deterrence for business owners to comply with the city code. And so that is where that consideration and that proposal comes from, is again, listening to the people that deal with these issues directly.
Heard on the point, the committee may address it as we address it though. Councilman Rea, then Duncan.
Yeah, and I don't know, I kind of want to hear some of the testimony because I imagine we have some of the folks here who own these businesses, but on this enforcement piece, is this for a first offense?
So the enforcement, every day, it's not set out in a first offense is this, second offense is this. It's if you offend, this is the potential penalties that you're subject to, and each day that you continue to sell these products in violation of the ordinance is a separate offense, again, meant to deter retail operators from illegal business practices under the city code.
Thank you.
Councilman Duncan.
I think it's worthy to belabor the point. I think we set a terrible precedent if we start prescribing jail minimums in our code of ordinances. And I think the best way to urge compliance with a business owner is to hit them in the pocketbook, which is then thereby funding our enforcement mechanism. I know Joe Williamson is an army of himself, but I think if we're going to expand his department, he's going to need help there. So I would recommend, and I know I'm not a committee member, amending this to remove the minimum. Definitely support the regulation. Thank you, Ms. Klein, for your work on this. I know it's been a labor. I don't know how much love has gone into it, but I know it's been a labor. But again, I think setting a minimum, a jail minimum, is something that we should get away from.
All right. Those, I think, are our questions for now. We welcome public testimony. The way we'll do public testimony, I know there are some who have different things to share and all of that. We're going to do 2 minutes a person. Depending on where we are after each person has gotten their 2 minutes, then you can come on back and all of that. And we'll try to hear from as many people. I know that's a short amount of time, but it's kind of what we're stuck with. So we will go through, folks. I have a lot of cards. I'll try to call you in advance, and if you don't feel like you need to say anything, you don't have to actually speak either. Because he was a good man, served the state of Missouri, all that sort of stuff. Senator Jeff Smith is with us today, and so, Senator, we'll have you go first and, welcome you back to Kansas City.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Nice to see you. Members of the council, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak briefly. I'm representing HEART, the Holistic Alternative Recovery Trust. We're a national organization that advocates for regulated adult access to 7-OH products. We support the regulations, most of the regulations in this proposed ordinance. We support the creation of a licensing structure. We support the ban on adulteration. We support the ban on minors accessing this. We support the labeling restrictions to make sure products aren't targeted towards minors. But we think that if the problem you're trying to address is nuisances at gas stations and convenience stores, then you should ban the ability for gas stations and convenience stores to sell these products. We don't think a blanket ban is appropriate. We think it goes way too far because there's many consumers that are going to be hurt by this. Over 3/4 of 7-OH product consumers in national surveys report using it to address chronic pain. Those people, in many cases, are using 7-OH products as an off-ramp from much more harmful substances like heroin or fentanyl. National statistics from the CDC bear that out. For 25 years in this country, we saw fatal opioid overdoses rise every year from 1998 to 2023. They went down for the first time in 2024, not by a little, but by 26.9%. And 2024 was also the first full year that 7-OH products were available. And I would tell you that further, in states that have banned 7-OH products, some like Arizona have seen a continued increase in fatal overdoses, whereas states like West Virginia and Florida have seen a 42 and 38% reduction in fatal opioid overdoses, states with a high per capita consumption of 7-OH products. So I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. There are safety concerns, but the FDA's own database shows that there have only been 66 adverse events after 1.5 billion servings. That's a 1 in 23 million chance of adverse events. So I would ask you to not do what Florida has done. Florida unilaterally scheduled 7-OH products, and they saw a tripling in fatal opioid overdoses almost immediately after that. Let's not drive people to the black market who are suffering. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator. Well done for us too on timing. As a reminder, if we come back around for, all right. Remember, that takes time from us all, but he did great. And so if we come back for comments, then we'll get to do another round. I'm going to, for the benefit of people who live in Kansas City, God bless you for doing that. I love the rest of you too. But our first commenters will be people who indicated a Kansas City, Missouri residency. I know there are many others of you, but we'll just get to our Kansas Cityans first. Followed by Jessica Rousseau, followed by Laura Bruce.
Hi, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to you today. I'm here as a parent of 4 kids, and also I run a youth prevention coalition in the Northland too, in the Kansas City area. I'm here today. I care deeply about the health and the safety of our community kids. And we, in our group called Youth with Vision, we have students from all over the Kansas City area. Last week, we were able to attend a national conference in Washington, D.C., where we were able to learn and engage with our legislators about different products, things that are emerging and things that our kids are concerned about. We were able to take 6 students there, and the students in my group felt like the biggest thing that they wanted to address, the thing that they decided that they wanted to speak on, and the biggest emerging issue to them was kratom and these products with the 7-hydroxy included in it. In sessions with the legislators, our students pled with our lawmakers to do something with these products and to get ahead of the issue before we have another opioid crisis like we've seen before. One of my students who couldn't make it today, she wanted me to share the following comment on her behalf because she's in school today. I'd already taken her out of school for a week last week to go meet with senators. So she wanted me to say the following things. She wanted to talk about how 7-hydroxy is being marketed as an all-natural therapy drug to help reduce stress and manage anxiety and depression. A lot of students these days are feeling like We're seeing increases in anxiety and depression, all of these things in our community. Kids are thinking that this is something that they should go to and turn to, and that it will help them. Because of the way they're marketed, that's something that kids are falling into. They don't understand that it's not actually going to be beneficial to them, and that it's not something that's healthy for their brain before their brain is fully developed. We also know that because of it, the way it's marketed, it increases vulnerability towards users. And a lot of these kids are going to be youth if there's no age restrictions put into place. Manufacturing of the 7-hydroxy does not have any third-party testing, and other harmful substances can be included. And it acts like hits the opioid receptors and poses a great threat to many. We support the ordinance. My kids wanted to say thank you very much, and that we hope that we can see that this can go through. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Rousseau? And you guys can line on up if you're up. So Laura, Bruce, feel free to just come on down. Yes, ma'am.
Excellent. Thank you very much for hearing our voices and bringing this attention to the committee. I appreciate that. I am here representing the yoga and holistic medicine community. I've been a yoga teacher and a health counselor for about 15 years. So I've seen a lot of people working diligently to naturally take care of their pain and symptoms. And so, like you, I also serve the community. I see people turning to Kratom because they are led to believe that it is an entirely safe alternative to pain medications. And there likely is truth there. But not everybody is being sold the entire story. They are only sold the parts that the industry would like them to hear. So while unadulterated kratom can be used safely, too many people do not learn how to use it safely or effectively. And you add that to an industry who's begun pulling out specific compounds like 7-OH, which is highly addictive, and you have an entire population of well-intentioned people who are becoming addicted to a plant that is entirely legal and without regulation. And so my question is, also as a mother, what happens if a naturally minded mother gives her child kratom or 7-OH to help with their pain or issues that they're having? So I have seen many members of my community fall into this very cycle too many times. And addiction is the opposite of health. So let's do what we can to protect and serve our community members from addiction for profit. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. We'll go to Miss Bruce, followed by Keanu Carson, Tammy Ho Hentz, and Jennifer Rode.
Good morning. I'm here to express my full support of, I loved the ordinance before. I was like, I loved it. Ordinance 251028, and to urge the city of Kansas City to ensure that the committee substitute remains comprehensive and full and free of loopholes. This is especially important right now. I went into a store, I've been shopping for Kratom over the last 6 months, and they tell me it's their #1 seller. It's their #1 seller. They sell it all the time. So this isn't just a little side issue. It's forefront. So I'm here not just as a resident, but as a mom. And in early December, I was in a Northland clothing store, Christmas shopping at 11 a.m. on a Monday. I took the day off, and we came across some kids who were high and out of sorts. In the morning, on a school day, some adolescents were high in the Ross. That should concern all of us. And to be clear, it's not their fault. We've created a legalish marketplace where powerful psychoactive substances are sold in everyday retail settings, often next to candy, energy drinks, and snacks, products like this. These products are widely available, and so-called natural products quickly turned into concentrated shots, powders, drinks, and chemically altered products that are far more potent than the plant itself. So many will argue for regulation of kratom instead of strong restrictions, suggesting age limits and labeling as a solution. But those tools are designed for well-understood products like alcohol and nicotine. Kratom is fundamentally different. It contains opioid-like compounds, has widely variable potency. And the products change faster than our laws can be updated. So this ordinance gives Kansas City a real opportunity to act decisively and in the interest of public safety. I was in the hall and many people in this room were vaping in City Hall. It's hard to regulate addictive products. It's best if we keep them out of the hand. I work in prevention, devoted my career to it because 9 out of 10 people with a substance use disorder started using before the age of 21. And so we must do what we can to prevent more harm. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Is Keanu Carson here? Followed by Tammy Ohens, and Jennifer Road. Feel free to line up for those of you who are in the queue. Yes.
Hello, my name is Keanu Carson. I'm 32 years old. I've been in the area for about 20 years now. I suffer from autism and extreme anxiety disorder. And I'm against the ordinance just from my own personal experiences with Kratom and 7-OH products. They allowed me to leave the house when nothing else was able to. I was able to feel happy and good emotions, which is something that I'm not accustomed to. And it just provided a lot of benefits for my life in general. I see where the ordinance is coming from. However, I think that we should focus on harm prevention rather than going for a nanny state option. These products, as we saw in the pictures, tend to explicitly state that they're for 21 plus and to only be used within a certain time amount and not on consecutive days. And as long as you follow these instructions, you're not going to have issues with addiction or with overdoses or anything of that nature. It's simply a matter of following the instructions. And I think people just need to take upon themselves to be responsible and to not do things like feed it to their children. Hearing that was, that's a bit beyond the pale. So these things are definitely problems. However, I don't think the ordinance is necessarily going to help in those regards. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, Tammy, are you here? If you're not here, Tammy, we'll move to Jennifer Road. Jennifer Road, are you here? All right, we're lost Jennifer Road. We'll go with Eric Olisberger. Is there an Eric Olisberger? All right. And Eric will be followed by Teresa Wayman.
I'm actually here for the hemp side. I was originally here. I didn't know we were going to separate out. Can I have time to speak, please?
Okay.
Can I speak about the hemp side, please? I was here for it before it was originally separated. I just don't want to take time for anyone else.
You go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. City Council members, thank you very much for your time and the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Eric Luschliger. My wife, Kate, and I have owned and operated the hemp house on 39th Street for 9 years. During this time, we have become deeply rooted in the Volker neighborhood, sponsoring local events and supporting our community. Our commitment to the area is shared by our 3 employees, all who actually moved into our area and created a community and a workplace. While we understand the nuisance complaints are a valid concern, we have operated for 9 years without an incident. I believe the city can efficiently manage individual stores through targeted enforcement rather than shutting down small businesses like ours that strive to provide safe, friendly environment. We fully support reasonable regulations, including mandatory age gating, child-resistant packaging, and maintaining certificate of analysis for all products. For 3 years, our industry has actively sought for regulations, but has been repeatedly blocked by MoCan's interest to maintain a monopoly in the industry. The federal amendment introduced on November 12th, 2025 has placed our livelihoods in peril. We were initially informed that we would have 1 year to transition. That was very tight, but when we had hoped to allow us to save sufficient capital to pivot to a new business concept and remain on 39th Street. However, this ban destroys our ability to reinvent ourselves. Launching a new business model requires significant resources, and a single year, let alone less than a month, does not provide enough time to save and develop a new venture. Without a viable path forward, our neighborhood will be left with a vacant storefront, our employees will be forced into unemployment, and my wife and I will likely have to leave Kansas City. I've been born and raised here for 42 years. We'll likely have to move to Kansas City to find a way to support ourselves. We urge Kansas to support small local businesses than citing out-of-state operators and industry monopolies. I would like to say, we just sell cannabinoids at our store. You know, like the fact that we are wrapped in all this together is really disheartening to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Go to Teresa Wayman. Teresa Wayman. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Mayor, just real quick, I just want to be clear with the previous public speaker, the changes address their concerns. Is that correct? The item that they're talking about is no longer in the ordinance.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes. And did you catch that too, sir, who just spoke? That the item you addressed is no longer in the ordinance? We'll make sure you know later on. The item you addressed is no longer in the ordinance. Okay, yep, got it. All right, we're just making sure. Ms. Wayman.
Ever since the seven has come out, everybody's forgotten about TNF is with TNF. House Bill 2213 was introduced in the Missouri 2024. If it would have passed, it would have made tianeptine a Schedule I drug, and it would have been effective 2 months before it took my son's life. Most people don't know what tianeptine is, so here's a little chemistry lesson. It was actually launched in the 80s in France as a prescription antidepressant. Due to its chemical structure, it was thought to be a tricyclic antidepressant, which basically means it would increase the serotonin and norepinephrine in the brain. But it soon became a mystery drug. It was believed to have neurorestorative ability, so it became a very highly studied drug. Early studies showed that it actually works like an opioid. More studies showed that it was actually a full opioid agonist, which means it activates the receptors such as morphine, oxycodone, and fentanyl. After all of these studies were published, it led to increased restrictions in Europe and France. People who were prescribed this drug as an antidepressant were left battling addiction. It became the oxycodone of France. This was all taking place at the exact same time that the United States was having the opioid crisis. So it was not approved for use in the United States. But what I call the white collar drug dealers were able to slap a patent on it, put it in capsules, and sell it as an over-the-counter supplement in the United States. They push it down to what I call the blue collar drug dealers, which is the gas stations and the smoke shops. In 2013, my son had fallen down a 3-story elevator shaft and lived to tell about it. Long story short, he did have a slight battle with opioids following this, but he chose to beat that addiction. He did not use illicit drugs because he knew the dangers of them. He would have never taken this over-the-counter supplement if he would have known it was addictive and that the withdrawals were 1,000 times worse than any opioid, and those were his exact words. He wasn't given a choice. There's no labeling. Well, first of all, tianeptine, it's not even debatable like kratom is. There's no debate to tianeptine. It should not be sold over the counter. It has been banned in 11 states, by the way.
And Ms. Wayman, your time's up if you want to wrap. Well, thank you. All right, J.C. Cerise, Vince Sanders, and Kyra Fuchs. Mr. Cerise.
Good morning, council, but I was only going to speak on hemp. I don't want to disrespect the council by speaking on hemp or.
What's that?
Should I, I was going to speak on hemp, but since it was pulled from the ordinance.
You know, you showed up. You got it. You
Okay,
got 2
great,
minutes to
great.
say whatever. man.
I had to cut this down to 2 minutes because I realized that every time's invaluable, so I'm just going to read, which I didn't want to do. But good afternoon, honorable members and council staff and fellow citizens. My name is J.C. Cerise, and I represent a small business in the federally legal hemp industry. We serve Kansas City community, so thank you for hearing me today, even though this is a different topic. Let's be clear. Missouri sees 3,500 deaths each year from excessive alcohol use. Roughly 93 of those involve children under the age of 21. These are real preventable losses. Hemp, since 2018 has become federally legal, has attributed to 0 deaths. Yet this proposed ordinance against hemp and hemp-derived cannabinoids isn't about safety. It's about shielding big marijuana businesses from competition. My company and 16 other small hemp operators in Kansas City are currently being sued for $13.3 million by interest linked to MoCan Trade and several of the Kansas City dispensaries. Their claim is we cost them sales by offering affordable, federally legal hemp products. Since legalization, certain big players have targeted us. We provide safe, cost-effective cannabinoids to lower-income adults, veterans, undocumented residents who are wary of dispensaries who fear they will be reported to ICE by the city's ID tracking system, not to mention our seniors and others who rely on hemp's federally legal status to protect rights, including the Second Amendment protections. The licensed marijuana sector has made billions of dollars, often with 70% plus margins, yet some are using lawsuits and mafia-like pressure instead of competing fairly. Large operators even have faced recently fines up to $500,000 for intentionally breaking rules like the Immaculate Conception. Some even source their products from Belton, from illegal marijuana grows. These are brought into the market, and they treat these penalties as business costs. These are the same big marijuana businesses owners who offer to fund your next campaigns, whether it be for a judge or a Senate seat, yet joke behind your back that they have you in their pocket. Council members, don't let this ordinance further create a marijuana monopoly. Protect small businesses, preserve choice for everyday Missourians, and let your decisions support entrepreneurs and families, not enriched interests. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate this.
Thank you so much. We'll go next to Vince Sanders and Kyra. And let's, just so we can go faster, we don't need to clap, but we can give each other a high five afterwards. Vince Sander, Kyra Fuchs.
Thank you, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Excuse me, I put a bit in my mouth. My mouth was dry.
Oh, yeah, sir.
Now, first I'd like to say, we fully advocate the majority of things on here, 21 plus, so, proper education, the idea of paying a higher licensing fee for where these products are sold so that you could pay for people to actually go and enforce these rules. That's what's important. But I think what's important is to understand the science here. You can't be pro-mitragynine and anti-7-OH. This is a process that goes on within your body. 20 to 25% of the mitragynine, the main alkylating kratom, is naturally converted as a metabolite to 7-OH. So it'd be like if salt converted to a poison in your blood, you couldn't say the poison is bad, but the salt is good, right? They're the one and the same. They would both hurt you. So I would advocate that we have our scientists, we have some of the top scientists around the world that are happy to sit down with city health organizations and director of health or whomever and come up with good common sense, science-based rules and regulations for this. You don't want to deny this. As the gentleman earlier spoke, we know prohibition doesn't work. You take this away, you force people to the street to fentanyl and ultimately death. That's where we're headed. This is a safe product. You cannot overdose on it. We've done the science. One of the scientists is here today to speak from Professor at KU. We've done beagle studies, rat studies, which are more susceptible to breathing reduction than humans. As Jeff mentioned, 1.5 billion doses, no deaths. So let's use common sense. Let's let the people that know best, the scientists, sit down and figure out how to regulate this, not just a knee-jerk reaction, oh, prohibit it. And we all know the harm that causes. I think that's it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very
sir.
much.
Appreciate you. Kyra Fuchs. Kyra Fuchs. All right. Eve Wolf. Eve Wolf. Followed by Brittany C. James.
Hello.
Hello, Ms. Wolf.
Thank you for letting me speak. And before I get started, I wanted to answer your question. As far as I know, most people who sell kratom, they have it tested, so make sure that it's pure, like the kratom powder. You can test it, and most retailers do that now. And my only experience is with the powder, so I can't speak for the OH and such. But for me, Kratom has literally saved my life. Lyme disease will take you through hell, and the pain is unbearable. I mean, curled up in a ball, crying and yelling pain. And this is every day for years. I'm on my year 10 of trying to heal from Lyme. It's hard to live like this, even when you're able to get some relief. But not having anything to help numb out that pain to let me sleep, I'm not strong enough for that. I would have ended my life years ago. And I know I'm not the only one. There are a lot of people who struggle with chronic pain and illness, and you probably have no idea because we generally hide it over homebound. A year ago, thanks to Kratom, I attended the 3rd District Conference. I was so interested and engaged, I stayed till the end. No one knew what a heroic act that was on my part, how much pain and sickness I felt when I woke up that day or started feeling during the conference, or that as soon as I got home, I was in bed for the rest of the weekend until it was time to go to work on Monday. And no one at work knew how sick and in pain I felt when I woke up every morning and what a struggle each day was, or that most days after work, I went home into bed until it was time to get up for work the next day. That I support myself, and I don't know what I would do if I couldn't work. And there's no way I could work without some way to keep the pain and other symptoms under control. Kratom enables me to hold down a job, and that is a godsend. After using Kratom for years, I can personally say that it's safe. I've never had any negative effects from it, and I've never felt cravings for it. I used to be a light smoker. I know what those cravings feel like. You can't think about anything else until you get a damn cigarette. I've never felt that with Kratom. I take it when I feel the pain building up. And as I get better, I find myself using it less and less without even thinking about it. I had a doctor at the KU Cancer Center tell me that a lot of his cancer patients use Kratom. I believe that no one can understand what it's like to live with unbearable pain unless you experience it. Taking away a safe relief from us would do irreparable harm. People would commit suicide or resort to the black market. I think the wise move would be to pass the Kratom Consumer Protection Act. Thank you.
Thank you. Brittany James, followed by Lene Eschen.
Respect to the council members, the police in the building, the flag. I'd like to take the middle of the man approach. I'm completely impartial. I have a 16-year-old, but I'm also a business owner. I'm all for small business and not having a cap on how much you can make. But I'm also a worker, so I see the worker side of it. And I just believe that it's up to the people to determine what they actually want to do. States are autonomous, and it's not really up to the federal government to choose what you would like for your state. So I just wanted to speak up because I had the opportunity to be here for the first time in my life, living here for 15 years and seeing how the law actually works and how things are done. So I want to thank you for your time and allowing me to speak up. But again, I'm impartial. I can see both sides of the argument, and it's interesting to see what you guys will actually determine. I think if both sides came together, as people have previously stated, and tried to work together and instead of against each other, then you might get a little further. Just wanted to spread some love, and as your motto says, be kind, KC. So thanks.
Thank you so much. Lynette, all right, or Lene. All right, that is the Kansas City residents or the people who said they were Kansas City residents. Now we'll go to Brother Todd Underwood, followed by person with one name. I'm gonna miss you. And then we'll go with, there's someone from Salt Lake City, Utah here. If you're from Salt Lake, then hop in line and join us. But Mr. Underwood.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Todd Underwood. I am the president and CEO of Mitt Wellness, one of the nation's larger traditional kratom manufacturing companies. And listening to all the testimony, I've had 3 heart attacks, quadruple bypass. I have muscular dystrophy. Other than that, I'm doing all right. So I say all that to say that I understand being in chronic pain. That's what led me into kratom to begin with. But we talk about following the science and being a responsible manufacturer. The FDA has a clear pathway to bring products like this to market. You have to be registered with the FDA as a food manufacturer. You have to follow 21 CFR. And part of that is following 190.6. and that's what's called a new dietary ingredient notification. That's what we did as a responsible manufacturer. We extract in Blue Springs, Missouri. We have a bottling facility in Independence, and we spent millions of dollars on the safety data of our exact product, submitted that to the FDA, and got a response from them. Now we're lawfully on the market. All these people with all these other products, they need to follow the exact same pathway to bring their products to market, not to use the human population as guinea pigs to try and prove their safety. I fully support this bill and what it's trying to achieve, and I'm here for any questions if you have any.
Thank you so much, Mr. Underwood. Is there a doctor? Okay, thank you so much. From Utah, welcome to Kansas City.
Thank you so much. Chair and Mayor and members of the committee, my name is Dr. Heidi Sikora. I'm a doctor of nursing practice with decades of leadership and clinical experience. I volunteer as the Chief Scientific Officer for the International Plant and Herbal Alliance. I have no financial ties to Kratom. Surveys and, well, first of all, I'd like to say that I am in favor of the bill as it was presented. And I think that the staff did a marvelous job of laying out the issue. But surveys and observational studies show that many people use natural kratom products to reduce suffering and avoid more dangerous substances. Scientific evidence, including the FDA single ascending dose study and multiple dose human studies, show a wide dose safety margin for natural kratom. And importantly, no opioid type respiratory depression has been demonstrated from natural kratom leaf in animal or human studies. The issue, the safety issue before you is not natural leaf kratom. The real concern is semi-synthetic substances such as 7-hydroxymetragenine or 7-OH. It's not botanical and it cannot be extracted from the leaf in usable quantities and is instead chemically manufactured. I think it's really important to understand that the kratom leaf contains trace 7-OH, and that's as it oxidizes. And when you ingest trace 7-OH in the natural kratom product, you get trace 7-OH in your body. So the idea that you can take a 7-hydroxymetragenine product that is, 10 to up to 200 milligrams and call that natural and say that that is equivalent to trace amounts in your body is just simply not true. So a ban, Kansas City can protect public health by regulating natural products for safety and quality and prohibiting all manufactured 7-OH compounds and other synthetic products, just as the ordinance says. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much. Stan Hurd. Stan Hurd, who's rather famous. And so we're delighted to have you here, sir. Followed by Philip Gao and Mark Deras. All right.
Mayor Lucas, congratulations on your leadership, sir.
Thank you.
It's been great to watch you from Lawrence. Kevin Wilmot says hello.
Oh, thank you.
I'm going to turn my time over to Philip Gow. He's way more important to me than me. I'm a 7-OH user, 75. I had cancer. I'm the healthiest I've ever been right now, and I've been using the product for a couple of years off and on, and I monitor it. And I don't know. I think it's changed my life and friends of mine, and so I'm excited about it. But I want to turn it over to Philip Gow, who knows a hell of a lot more than I do.
All right, Mr. Gao. 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. As a faculty, as a faculty of University of Kansas and Department of Biosciences and Institute of Bioengineering, as a founder and owner of a biopharmaceutical company for 14 years located at KU Innovation Park, and also as a private user of the product, as a son, husband, and daughter. I came here, crossed the border, not wage war, but make peace. I can give you 2 hours lecture, but I only have 2 minutes. I make 2 points. One is Kratom is a natural product from Southeast Asia. My ancestors never killed any Indians, never owned any slaves, but would drink shit for thousands of years. 2016, federal government was trying to ban this and failed miserably. Now they add it again. I'm so happy this audience didn't ban kratom, the leaves. Second thing, the leaves you're not banning. When you drink it, 20 to 30% of compound is converted to 7-OH by your liver. Think about it. 20 to 30% will convert it to 7-OH by your liver. 2%? No, 20 to 30%. Are you going to chop off your liver to prevent 7-OH? 7-OH is a natural metabolite converted by your liver to detoxification. Its toxicity is lower than that. So think about it. Banning it doesn't make any sense. Insulin, vitamins, most of them are synthetic. Think about it. And okay, okay, 2 more minutes.
Yep.
I just make it brief. Banning the thing doesn't have scientific background base, which I just told you. Doesn't make economic sense. $1 billion industry. We all for regulation, all the things. But I just want to make one comment. Banning it, it's either ignorant or evil, maybe both. Thank you.
Mark Harris. Mark Harris, yep, followed by Dale Morgan and Kathleen Worrell.
Good morning, folks, and thank you for your time. My name is Mark Drouse. I'm a small business owner based out of Kearney with 6 employees on payroll. I like to lead my company by example. We do installations of doors, garage doors, spring replacements, that kind of thing. I'm 65 years old. I suffer from degenerative disc disease, crippling arthritis, and fibromyalgia. I like to lead my guys in the field. I don't just send them out on a job. And the only way I'm able to do that anymore is because of the 7-OH that I consume. Very limited amounts, nonetheless. It's like anything else in life. If you overdo it, it's bad for you. And if you do it with modesty and some decorum, then it's helpful. So that's really all I have to say. I just know that without it, I am not able to do my job anymore. And in this day and age, it's necessary. So thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Dale Morgan. Dale Morgan, are you here? Hey, Dale. And Kathleen Worrell is next.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the committee. My name is Dale Morgan. I am a licensed EMT, and I serve as the board president of the Psychedelic Society of Kansas City, which is a multidisciplinary board of clinical medical providers, as well as psychologists and psychotherapists. As someone who works to improve public health and advocate for evidence-based harm reduction aligned policies, I'm asking respectfully to urge you to vote no on this ordinance as it's currently drafted. While we share a goal of protecting public safety and addressing genuinely dangerous products, we believe this ordinance in its current form is overbroad, vague, and likely to cause serious unintended harm to public health, small businesses, and vulnerable communities. Our key concerns focus partially on Section 5206, which bans any novel substance with effects similar to Schedule 1 or Schedule 2 drugs. This language is so broad that it may inadvertently criminalize legal products such as ashwagandha, kava, or other herbal teas and supplements. We also believe that public health will be set back by the paraphernalia ban that is introduced in this ordinance. It would make it harder to distribute drug testing kits, safe use supplies, and other harm reduction tools. We're also worried about the ordinance having a chilling effect on speech, since anything that can be used to describe the effect of something could be seen as a violation or evidence of an offense. We believe this will discourage honest safety education by clerks, public workers, and other harm reduction organizations at a time when accurate information is desperately needed. We believe that Kansas City can and should pursue smarter evidence-based alternatives, such as targeted regulation and civil, not criminal, enforcement against bad actors, and expanded education and harm reduction strategies developed in consultation with public health experts and affected communities. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Kathleen Worrell. Terry Blevins. Are you here, Kathleen? Great to see you. What about Terry Blevins and Eric Kieser? All right. Go ahead, ma'am.
I'm here to speak against banning 7-OH or alkaloids or kratom because it quite literally saved my life. 8 years ago, I broke my back and I was prescribed 70 milligrams of Oxycontin. Over the time, I could feel myself heading down a dangerous path towards addiction. I was scared, but I didn't feel like I had any real alternatives to managing my pain. I heard about kratom and everything changed for me. Because of kratom, I was able to get off prescription opiates. I don't know what I would do without it. The idea of it being banned terrifies me. Without it, many, including those with insurance, are access to constant medical care. We left with very few options for pain relief. When people are cut off from safe, they don't stop needing pain control. They look somewhere else. I believe it would likely push more people toward illicit substances. As a result, we would see overdose rates increase, especially among uninsured and vulnerable populations. As council members, you have a responsibility to consider for the real life consequences of this decision on how it will impact the most vulnerable people in our community. I understand the need for safety and responsible regulations, but banning it would remove a critical option for people who are trying to avoid opioids and manage pain. For me, kratom is not a problem, it is a solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Terry Blevins, followed by Eric Kieser.
Good afternoon, Mayor and council members. My name is Terry Blevins. I'm a former local and federal law enforcement officer, national speaker, and board member for LEAP, Law Enforcement Action Partnership. I worked my entire career protecting communities, and now I advocate for sensible drug laws that actually protect our communities. That's why I must oppose this ban. This ban would provide opportunities for bad actors to put dangerous products on the market, and would it be extremely difficult and costly to enforce. The science is still out, and we must not rush to a ban that is premature. As a street officer, I saw how drug prohibitions don't actually reduce demand, but instead drive consumers to an illicit market, which in turn makes our communities much less safe. What I discovered when I got involved in this 2% issue is that it's basically just an industry fight. The kratom side of the industry was feeling threatened by the efficacy of this derivative, and they set out to get 7-OH banned. I'm also a consumer. I came back from Iraq with a severe neck injury, and I became dependent on opiates. Consequently, although I live in constant pain every day, I have to stay away from anything that is opiate-based. I discovered 7-OH and found that it helped me with my pain with little or no side effects. This ban would not allow me to access the product that I need to help me with my quality of life. Thank you.
Thank you. You, sir, followed by Dr. Michelle Ross, followed by Michelle Taylor.
My name is Eric Kieser, and I am handicapped. I was born with a genetic disorder known as hip dysplasia. It is very painful to the point I had trouble even walking. The alkaloids changed all of that for me. Before I started taking them, I was in so much pain that I had to be pushed in a wheelchair at the airport. It was embarrassing. I'm 40 now. That was at 38. My love of travel was becoming more difficult. Thanks to 7OH, I can now walk it all myself. Because of my handicap, I had ballooned in weight. I was 305 pounds. I couldn't stand for too long. I wasn't sleeping. Everything constantly hurt. My life was miserable. I started taking advanced alkaloids in December of 2024, and I haven't looked back. I am no longer in constant pain. It doesn't hurt to lay in bed. It doesn't hurt to stand. It doesn't hurt to sit too long like I did in this room. I am now able to walk. I'm able to walk so good I'm blowing out my daily step counter. I'm able to walk so good that I've lost 95 pounds. I am healthy. I'm thriving. I am here for my life and my family. I won't die an early obese death thanks to the alkaloids, thanks to 7OH. I have never took pills or narcotics for my pain like others have. I have never done street drugs like others have. Opioids are a problem in this country, and you are trying to ban a legal natural alternative to opioids and the fentanyl epidemic. Politicians talk about fentanyl overdoses are down and pat themselves on the back claiming it's because of the availability of Narcan. No. Overdoses have dropped because of a safe, legal alternative, 7OH. 7OH gave me my life back, and I will be forever grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Dr. Michelle Ross, coming from Plano, Texas. Thank you.
Hi there, Council. My name is Dr. Michelle Ross. I'm an addiction scientist and court-qualified expert on kratom and 7OH. I strongly oppose the proposed ban on the sale of 7OH kratom products. Let me be clear here. The FDA and numerous jurisdictions, including states, even the Missouri Department of Health, has actually copy and pasted misinformation such as 7OH is 13 times more potent than morphine. That's a lie. It's not supported by the literature at all. But these things have been used to justify bans in numerous states. Let me be clear that science doesn't take a side. It looks at the facts. And I've actually been able to get retractions and papers based on misinformation that has been presented. And some of those papers have been used to justify bans. So the science here is very murky, it's very unclear, but there is no research study in humans that shows that these 7OH products are more dangerous, more addictive, or have adverse effects like respiratory depression, that any of these bad effects are seen more in 7OH products than kratom products or kratom extract products. So let me tell you a little bit about the average 7OH consumer because you've been fed a lot of lies. The average 7O consumer is a college-educated working parent in their mid-40s. 8% of 7OH consumers are veterans. That's right, veterans. And 2% are current or retired law enforcement. These are not recreational products. They are used for chronic pain and substance abuse recovery. 7OH is not a danger to our communities. In fact, it's a safety net for those who have faced serious obstacles obtaining treatment for chronic pain or substance abuse, or simply prefer plant-based medicine over pharmaceuticals. Banning 7OH won't reduce drug overdoses, it will drive them up. Secondly, 7OH ban will leave consumers with 3 options: suffering, street thugs, or suicide. And all of those facts are supported by the research on 7OH consumers that I did last year. I actually did a survey of 1,500 consumers. So I'd be happy to answer any questions as I am the leading expert on 7OH in the room. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Michelle Taylor, Inga Selders, and Brian Woolman.
Hi, my name is Michelle Taylor.
Michelle.
I also dealt with pain from an automobile injury that left me almost crippled from 2015. I was prescribed Oxycontin at a heavy dose, oxycodone at a heavy dose for almost 11 years. When I decided that I went to the grocery store and couldn't remember how I got there. It was time to change it up. So I found the kratom, and that's what I began taking. And if it wasn't for that, I can't tell you where I'd be right now. So I appreciate your time and everyone else's time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Inga Sellers, followed by Brian Wallman.
Hi, I'm Inga Selders. I wear several hats. I am the policy director for CBD American Shaman. I'm also the executive director for Cannabis Justice Coalition, and I currently sit on the City Council of Prairie Village. So I'm going to put my first hat on. I got into this space because I lost my sister in 1999 to an accidental Oxycontin overdose. From then on, I've been looking at alternative ways to help people in situations like she went through. I am in a loss of a sibling group. A lot of the people in that were affected, their siblings dying of an overdose of some kind of opioid. So many of them would have benefited if they would have had the option for 7-OH. So much of that is the respiratory depression that happens, and you don't see that with 7-OH. So I urge you all to do the study. Look at the CDC statistics. It's out there. Do the research on it. I'm going to put on my second hat, and that's the City Council. The policy that you are implementing right now, we're looking at 3 different ordinances now to address nuisance issues. We have the one here for 7-OH and kratom. We have the one that's going to be for the cannabinoids that'll be introduced on Thursday, and then the small bottle ban. It's all looking at nuisance issues though, so it just wearing so many different hats with that is very difficult. It should be brought down to looking at what the actual issues are. If you look at, having people coming in to be able to inspect, I know we talked about having some kind of licensing fee. We met with Ms. Lace Klein and discussed that. Having a good system put in place so you could look at that would be very great. Packaging itself, making sure it's not sold to anybody under 21, making sure everything has a certificate of analysis. With that is third-party testing. You can see if there is any kind, what pesticides are in it, heavy metals, every single chemical. I mean, most supplements don't even have something that extensive. If you required that for every single product that's sold and put this under the umbrella, back under the umbrella of one ordinance that's for intoxicating products, you would be able to take care of that. Having a fee, $500 to $5,000 for each store, to be paying that annually, to be hiring staff, to be going in and doing that, that would achieve so many problems. That is the root of the issue here. So, I mean, please reconsider this. I brought a hard copy of an ordinance, draft ordinance that our attorney put together. If you'd like it here, I can also send some soft copies, but please look at this as a nuisance issue and intoxicating products as a whole instead of separating each thing out. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian Wallman. Wallman will be followed by Ryan Butillo and Brenda Miner.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Brian Wollman, and I've been formally educated in psychedelic science at Missouri Western State University. I also volunteer for the Psychedelic Society of Kansas City. And I'd like to address the novel psychoactive language in the ordinance. A few years ago, 2 brothers attempted to heal from the traumas of their past with 2 vastly different substances. And everything else, brother turned to the soul-destroying fentanyl that plagues our nation and died. I, on the advice of several psychologists, experts in their field, took a psychedelic substance and a psychedelic-assisted therapy, and immediately following returned to higher education. I'm now 1 year away from obtaining my degree with honors. 2 brothers, 2 vastly different substances, 2 vastly different results. So why are the substances that heal being lumped together with substances like fentanyl that kill? To understand this, we need to go back in time to Nixon's administration's politicization of psychedelics and the war on drugs, which we now know, thanks to recorded conversations, was a war against the African-American community for the purpose of incarcerating as many Black men as possible. It's now 2026, and if printed out, we would be standing on a literal mountain of scientific evidence that points to the medicinal value of substances that fall under the psychedelic umbrella, and this city trusts experts over fear makers. This nation wants to heal from the traumas of its past, from the individual to society at large, and what can and will accelerate this healing is the psychedelic. I appreciate this coming together of intelligent minds, and it's my hope that you'll make an informed, balanced decision and remove the novel psychoactive language from the ordinance. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ryan Butillo. Ryan. Brenda Miner. Brenda.
Hello, I'm Raya Butillo, and I'm speaking on behalf of 70H and why I think a proposed ban altogether is not the right way to go about things. I do agree that it should not be sold in gas stations in these extremely high doses where we don't know who's consuming it, especially minors. There does need to be an age limit for that, but what I'd like to speak about is on my personal behalf, I started using 70H. Over a year ago, I was prescribed oxycodone. I have a horrible degenerative spine. I'm a surgical neurophysiologist, so for a living, all I do every day in and out is spinal fusions. I see chronic pain and what it does to a person, and it's completely debilitating. Due to my age, I had a few doctors that would go back and forth with me, not really believing the pain that I was in. You could see the imaging clear as day, the tear in my disc, my degenerative spine, the arthritis all up it. And I simply couldn't be heard. So I believe that 70H is something that was for the first time, it gave me autonomy over my own pain. When I was on the oxycodone, I had to see my doctor once a month, get an appointment, make sure you get your appointment at the right time, go to the pharmacy. So this has completely eliminated that aspect of my life. And I do have the autonomy over my pain. I don't feel uncomfortable. Um, I don't have to explain myself to my doctor and try to prove the horrid pain that I'm in. Luckily, I've been able to deal with a lot of that with physical therapy and yoga, but for the people that can't get out of pain, it is amazing. And just like Vince had said earlier, in the states that this was completely banned in, oxycodone and opiate deaths increase. So there has to be something that the 70H is doing right to decrease those statistics. Thank you. That is all I have for today.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That concludes our written comment. If you're present and you'd still like to speak, come on up. Understood.
Hi, thank you for your time. I am asking you to please not ban 70H in Kansas City. There are so many people like myself who depend on it in order to be functional adults. A few years ago, before I found it at a wellness store, I was overweight, high blood pressure, and my entire daily life revolved trying to prevent flare-ups in my back. I would only have a few hours in a day to get any task done. Then I have to go home and rest and hope I didn't overdo it, ended up in the hospital begging for help from the pain. I have 3 kids who need me to be able to get out of bed. That wellness store visit changed my life. I was able to get a job. The last job I had prior to finding it, I got fired from because they told me I couldn't handle it. It was humiliating, but true. I have lost 30 pounds. I'm in the best shape of my life. My blood pressure is normal, and I haven't seen the inside of an ER since that day. I am a responsible 42-year-old adult and voter in the state and city, and I have the right to make decisions about what I put into my own body. Please do not take that away from me and the countless others that this plant is helping. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. If you're joining us now in public testimony, just say your name and tell us where you're from. And proceed and speak.
Hello, how you doing? I'm Paul Vega Jr., Kansas City resident, 6th District. First off, I want to commend all the government officials here for common sense governance and actually clearing up some things. I'm going to go ahead and read my statement, and that was in opposition, but just related to hemp. Also, I wanted to use this as a platform for continuing work in Jeff City and federal if possible. I have a video of a 28-year-old, well, not 28-year-old, 28-year veteran of the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department that had a 98% clearance record. He was a homicide detective, and most that he dealt with was drug-related deaths. And I didn't know if it'd be possible. I know normally booze up there, but since you're the chair, you have to clear it.
We will not do video, but you're welcome
Okay,
to
thank
give
you.
your testimony.
All right, well, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm here to discuss hemp policy from a real-world perspective, focusing on public safety, enforceability, economic impact, and the well-being of Kansas City residents. Closing hemp businesses overnight would create unnecessary harm to workers, business owners, residents, and the city as a whole. For many people, especially veterans, seniors, and low-income individuals, Hemp-derived products offer an affordable way to manage pain, stress, sleep issues, and overall wellness. With a rising cost of living, eliminating these options hits those who can least afford higher cost. Kansas City has around 250 to 300 hemp retailers, many of them legitimate tax-paying businesses. If these businesses were shut down, the city could lose roughly 15 to 20 million annually in sales tax revenue alone, funding essential public services and community programs. I hear about you guys talk about the general fund in here a lot, so you could benefit from that. An abrupt shutdown would also put hundreds, potentially thousands of employees out of work with no notice. People supporting families, paying rent, and caring for children. This would lead to vacant commercial spaces, reduced economic activity, and greater neighborhood blight. From a public safety perspective, eliminating regulated retailers doesn't eliminate demand. It drives consumers to the black market, towards street dealers who don't verify age, test products, or operate under oversight. Regulated businesses provide accountability that unregulated markets can't. The issue isn't hemp itself, it's clarity. Clear, enforceable regulations such as licensing, age restrictions, product taste testing, and meaningful penalties would protect the public far more effectively than vague language or sweeping bans. Regulation can also generate revenue supporting enforcement efforts. For example, a licensing structure, $5,000 a business would raise about 1.5 million annually. If used to fund compliance and oversight without burdening taxpayers, along with adding to the general funds. We all share common goals, protecting minors, supporting law enforcement, and ensuring policy works in the real world. If changes are necessary, a thoughtful transition period, such as 1 year at least, would allow workers, businesses, and landlords to adjust while giving the city time to respond responsibly. Kansas City has a chance to approach this issue thoughtfully, avoiding overreach, unintended harm, and the creation of future problems. And on a side note, I know that this is symbolic in a way due to the federal legislations that's coming up in November, but you have a chance to stand up for what's right and start something here that can go somewhere else. Thank you so much for your time, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
All right. Are there any others present in the chamber who would like to speak? All right. Hearing none, we'll go to our virtual comments. Howard, just take it away.
Brother.
Dan Gibbs.
Hello.
Hi there.
Hey there. Hello, Mayor, members of the committee. So my name is Dan Gibbs. I'm here today to urge a total ban on kratom in all forms, including kratom leaf powders, extracts, and isolated alkaloids such as 7-OH to protect public safety in Kansas City. On December 6, 2023, my son Austin died from mitragynine toxicity, the primary active compound in kratom. He did not die from fentanyl. He did not die from heroin. He did not die from prescription opioids. His toxicology was negative for illicit street drugs. The official cause of death was intoxication by mitragynine. I was the one who found him, and that trauma will stay with me for the rest of my life. I want to address the suggestion that Kansas City should imply mirror state level bill that relies on regulation rather than prohibition. Local governments are not required to adopt the weakest available standard. When a substance presents unresolved safety risk, municipalities have both the authority and the responsibility to act more protectively, especially when state level regulation does not address potency, dependence, or real world harm. I would also address the current proposal to regulate kratom by restricting sales to those over 21. Age limits do not make dangerous substances safe. They do not change potency, dosing, or addiction risk. An unapproved opioid-like substance sold in gas stations does not become safer on someone's 21st birthday. I also want to address the current focus on banning only 7-OH. The approach reflects an industry workaround, which you've heard all night, not a public safety solution. 7-OH does not exist without kratom. It is derived from kratom, created from kratom, and now isolated and concentrated because the base product remains legal. Targeting only 7-OH leaves every other dangerous pathway open. That is not harm reduction, that is harm delay. You've heard tonight individuals describe their own experiences in ways they believe defend kratom, while unknowingly revealing the very risk this committee should be concerned about. They will.
Susan.
Next commenter. Susan.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, proceed.
Yes, my name is Susan Eppard, and I support banning all forms of kratom. My 22-year-old son, Matthew Eller, died from whole leaf kratom powder, the least potent form of kratom available in the United States today. Kratom caused him to have a seizure, go into cardiac arrest, and die a violent death on his floor in front of his girlfriend. His toxicology showed he died from the toxic effects of metragine, an alkaloid found only in kratom. He had no prescription drugs, no street drugs, nor alcohol in his system when he died, and his autopsy showed he had no underlying health conditions. And it's very important to note that my son didn't die from 708 or 7-hydroxymetragine. I'm a member of the nonprofit group Kratom Danger Awareness. Hundreds of our members have lost loved ones who died from kratom. Many died from metragine, not 7-OH, and the vast majority were over the age of 21. And I have spoke with the FDA about my son's death, and they reassured me that they are actively investigating all kratom deaths reported to them. And they are well aware that people are dying from kratom of all forms. The only way to get rid of 7-OH or other spin-off kratom products is to ban all kratom. Concentrated kratom can be made from kratom powder with a few ingredients by simply searching it on YouTube. And this is a disclaimer I found from the AKA's GMP certified so-called safest kratom. And it reads, quote, kratom may be associated with one or more of the following adverse reactions: nervousness, agitation, confusion, aggression, hallucinations, delusions, tremors, sleeplessness, drowsiness, lethargy, sedation, skin hyperpigmentation, loss of libido, constipation, nausea, vomiting, abdominal pain, liver toxicity, tachycardia, hypertension, respiratory depression, respiratory arrest, cardiac arrest, renal failure, seizures, coma, and death. And this is not on their packaging, but hidden deep in their website. And Matthew was the youngest of my 6 children, and I don't want people to go to jail for using this, but I know for a fact.
John?
Yeah, I'm John Shenholster. I'm the advocacy director for American Veterans for Kratom Safe. And, I'm also an old timer in recovery, 43 years clean and sober. And I'm I'm the founder of the largest recovery center in Virginia. And, kratom has been the best harm reduction tool I've ever seen in my 43 years, but especially in the last 15 years in this space. And I'm one of the, I support the bill. This is great work by the public safety director, Lace Klein. You did a great job on really outlining, the do's and don'ts, the good and the bad on this. But I'm also one of the few advocates that wants to regulate kratom. But I reach out and I talk to these people from the Kratom Danger Awareness Group. I talk to these families, and I get deep in these conversations with these folks, and typically it's always 7-OH in the end. Very rarely is it just natural leaf kratom products. And even when it is, people don't realize, 7-OH and kratom, they test the same in these blood tests and these forensic tests. So you got a substance that you can't tell the difference between the two with those deep level testings. So, I think people need to look at that. And back to harm reduction, I haven't met a family member yet that wouldn't rather have their loved one on a GMP natural kratom product than a one pill kill street product. It just doesn't make sense why you'd want to drive people into an illegal drug market. And surprisingly enough, a lot of people, they pivot from more dangerous like pharmaceutical drugs, as well as like, drinking 2/5 of liquor a day. They found kratom, and that helps them and saves their life. I see nothing but real value, but education is key. We need a lot of education. So thank you so much for your time.
Mac Haddo? Please unmute, sir.
Sorry, I should know that by now. My name is Matt Caddo. I'm the Senior Fellow on Public Policy with the American Kratom Association. On July 29th of 2025, FDA Commissioner Marty McCary announced that the FDA was recommending that 7-OH be scheduled under the Federal Controlled Substances Act as a Schedule I substance based on their comprehensive review of the science that was available. And they announced that they were not focused on natural leaf kratom products, again, based on the scientific evidence. And that was prompted by an FDA study that was done on the safety of natural kratom leaf products, which determined that even at an extraordinarily high dose rate of 12 grams, which no one takes in a 5-minute period, that only 2 of the 40 people, one placebo and one kratom cohort patient, was in fact experiencing some nausea, a minor side event. This is not an industry war. This is about safety for consumers. We started advocating for Kratom Consumer Protection Acts in 2019, 4 years before 7-OH came on the market, but we warned of the dangers of 7-OH and called for no greater than 2% of the alkaloid fraction, which this regulation does, and it's well done. There is no safety data that has been provided about the safety of 7-OH under the federal laws, which require evidence and data. And the 7-OH group's own scientists said that they did not meet that standard. 7-OH is a very unstable product. And most importantly, it is sold today as sublingual tablets and tablets that dissolve in your mouth, going right to your bloodstream. It bypasses your first pass metabolism. That's why it poses a significant danger to the American public. It is why Kansas City must enact this regulation in order to contain the dangers that are on 7-OH products. And I thank you very much for your time.
Bobby Baker.
Hi, yes, this is actually Laura Birdsong with the Independence Avenue CID. I wanted to speak on behalf of a complete ban of kratom in our facilities. I appreciate what everyone has said today, and I think that people are showing just how much harm reduction and a MAP program would be excellent to help them get to where they need to be. I think it's terrifying that we're even considering leaving gas station shelves to determine how somebody could potentially maintain something such as an opioid crisis within their own life. I practice harm reduction every day. I do not see kratom as harm reduction in any way, especially as it remains unregulated in any fashion. I get calls all the time from people who have potentially come out of addiction, out of a treatment center, and they thought that kratom was the answer as a buffer for them. And now they hurt just like they did off the opioids. There is a withdrawal associated with it. There is a dependency that comes after use. And the idea to come off of it is actually has them back in a position where they are seeking treatment options to be able to stop this. And this is all provided at our local gas station and under no doctor's orders or regulation whatsoever. People who are in need of this type of treatment that would be potentially using this product to regulate an addiction, a pain, anything, really need to have a medical professional helping them to do so and not the option. This isn't an over-the-counter medication we're talking about here. It's a dangerous substance. And I just really hope that everybody moves forward with protecting the community by banning kratom products.
Misty Brown.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
My name is Misty Brown. I'm a kratom consumer advocate and activist. I'm a recovered addict now because of whole leaf kratom. I didn't have to go to MAT treatment. Matter of fact, the thousands of people that follow me on social media have used whole leaf kratom to get off of MAT treatment. But anyway, I'm here today. I support the bill, regulate kratom, ban 7-OH. The $1.5 billion, the 1.5 billion doses, and no deaths is not really the valid argument here. The 1.5 billion doses is a flashing money sign because you're creating addicts. You filed moral bankruptcy while people are literally filing financial bankruptcy. You are selling and offering that free product and ripping a page from the 1990s Oxycontin playbook. That is what's happening here. You don't call K2 Spice cannabis. You don't call grapes wine. You don't call Everclear Miller Lite. You don't call Sudafed meth, just like you don't call 7-OH kratom. It is not the same substance. I don't know how many times we could try to make this thing clear. It is not kratom at all. Now, I'm going to go ahead and jump up off here because I got to head to another hearing to try to save whole leaf kratom because of the mass destruction that 7-OH is causing. Thank you for allowing me this time to speak.
Tia Rustisi, Tia, please,
We're
please
going to do
unmute.
about 10 more minutes of public testimony because we do need to get out of the way for another committee. So we will wrap with wherever that is. Go ahead, Madam Clerk, whoever you were saying.
Yes, sir. Jennifer Gillis,
Yes, hi, my name is Jennifer Gillis, and 20 years ago, I was diagnosed with transverse myelitis. I became a lifelong chronic pain patient. After losing access to prescription pain medications through no fault of my own, I spent years struggling to manage my pain. I discovered whole leaf kratom powder in 2019, and it gave me my life back. My story is not unique. It provides pain relief without the mental impairment associated with traditional opioids. Comparing kratom to opioids ignores both the science and real experiences of responsible consumers. Kratom has been a lifeline for so many people like me who just want to live meaningful lives. I ask that you support sensible regulation and restricting the problematic 7-OH products being falsely marketed as kratom products. This would protect consumers while preserving access to regulated, natural kratom products for people like me who rely on it for a better quality of life. Thank you.
Thank
Laura
you.
Romney,
Hello. I appreciate you letting me speak today. I'm Laura Romney. I'm out of Salt Lake City, Utah. I'm also with the International Plant and Herbal Alliance. And I am very, very grateful today that this council has decided to draft this particular ordinance. I appreciate that you've taken a lot of time and thought into this and that you've truly studied the science, because that's what it really boils down to, is science. Kratom, natural kratom plants have the science behind them. The 7-OH synthetic products do not have the science nor the safety data. I'm a 9-year chronic pain consumer of kratom products, thriving after struggling for 6 years before that. And when I found kratom, it really was life-changing for me. I really appreciate you digging into the details and looking through a lot of the misconception that's happening in the media that's conflating 7-OH and kratom, natural kratom products. So again, I just want to applaud you for protecting a lot of the most vulnerable in your community and not, combining both of these products into your ordinance, that you're actually separating them out. I encourage, ongoing regulation and enforcement of that regulation so that, that your consumers and your citizens are protected and people like me can come visit, which is even the best part. And I did visit your city a couple months ago, and everyone there is just wonderful. So appreciate your help and protecting those really who like and choose natural plant kratom, especially those that even choose it over opiates or even Suboxone for withdrawal. There's a lot of us out there. And again, thank you very much. And please vote yes on the current ordinance as has been presented. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ms. Usher,
Hi, my camera doesn't work, so I just want to make sure that that's okay. Turn it off. Is that okay?
I can't even quite hear you. Just go ahead and
Okay.
share.
Hi, my name is Venus Usher, and I'm here to urge you to keep plain leaf kratom legal and regulated, not just for me, but for the countless others who rely on it safely every day. In 2000, my life was turned upside down by an FDA-approved medication that caused kidney stones and constant pain. For 17 years, I fought to prove my pain was real. I was labeled a drug addict, sent to rehab, put on Suboxone, and even underwent unnecessary surgeries, including a hysterectomy. No one believed me, and no one would help. And then 8.5 years ago, I discovered plain leaf kratom, a simple tea that changed everything. I didn't expect much, but the relief was almost immediate, better than anything I experienced in nearly 2 decades. It allowed me to finally undergo a 3-hour surgery that proved my pain was real. And even afterwards, it was plain leaf kratom, not prescription medication, that helped me heal. I had them remove my IV, I drank my tea, and it worked better. I got out of bed and reclaimed my life. Since then, plain leaf kratom and cannabis have been my only source of pain relief. I don't crave it or chase a high. I'm clear-minded, functional, and present in my life again as a nana, mother, daughter, wife, and a friend. This is the truth. Plain leaf kratom is just crushed leaf. It has a natural safety limit. If you take too much, you don't die. You simply throw it up. It doesn't depress the respiratory system or cause fatal overdose, and science shows that responsible use and education is the key. Plain leaf kratom consumers are everyday people quietly living their lives, not looking for trouble. We're out making memories, and many aren't even aware of these bans. Sadly, that's how people like Marshall Price, who received 10 years and was murdered in prison, and Shayna Brown, who is facing 10 years to life, became victims of kratom criminalization. Please pay attention to who wants it banned. It's often those who profit when kratom isn't available, pain clinics, rehab centers, and others tied to the system that failed patients like me. I ask you to look at the facts and faces of the
Thank
Tia
you. Tia
Rustici,
will
and
be our
this is
last commenter. Tia?
this is the last one, Mayor.
Tia, if you could unmute. And go ahead. All right, Tia, for whatever reason, we can't hear you. But if you want to give later comment, contact us at clerk@kcmo.gov. We will take this back to committee now. Before us is the ordinance and I think interest in potential committee substitutes at issue. If we were to take this up today, I would recommend the conversation before there's that section 50-207, which created individual criminal liability. I think in subsection E, I would strike that section entirely. Fines actually aren't contemplated in this, it appears. Instead, you go with the somewhat, I didn't see it, but
Subsection E.
it is in subsection E, in the committee substitute, which I needed to. What's the fine limit, if you could describe it for us?
The fine would be under the, I believe it's under subsection F, the fine of not less than $750 and not more than $1,000.
Say it again for me, you're describing it for us.
Between $750 and $1,000.
So you're starting a floor again and a shall?
Yes.
So I'm not as comfortable with that. Why don't we do it this way? On our subsection E, strike all of the sentencing guidelines and just do what we do typically in ordinances if we leave the language silent, which is that your penalty is up to the limits that exist within the code of ordinances. I would think as a, rather than a mandatory minimum.
Copy.
And that gives the municipal prosecutor the opportunity to decide or not. Councilman Ray?
So I believe that would then be up to $1,000.
Correct.
At our fine limit.
Yep. Any other recommended changes on this?
I don't know if this language was struck when when we removed the cannabinoids, but the language that was referenced by a couple of folks who provided testimony that referenced the any like substances.
The analogs, or I think is how it was referenced in the original ordinance, the substances that mimic a product.
Yes. It just seems very broad.
So the main question is that still within the ordinance?
No, there's nothing about, there's no definition or.
Then you've answered the question. So his concern is not in there anymore?
No.
Great. Okay. Councilman Ray?
The only thing that I think would be helpful if we could get this from the health department before Thursday. I don't know if their policy person is here, but we heard a great deal of testimony, some from folks who stated they were doctors, about the impact this could have on opioid use or suicide rates. I'd be interested to see what the health department's response is in that regard. They've invested a lot of time in addressing our own opioid crisis locally, and I know that that's certainly something they don't want to make a recommendation that's going to contribute to worsening. And so I think they would have a good opinion on the matter.
In any type of motion, we could always give you a little bit more time or not. Depends on what the committee wants to do to provide that supplemental information too. All right. We will entertain a motion on this matter, recognizing a committee substitute is the recommendation.
Mr. Mayor, I move that ordinance number 251028 be reported out of committee with the recommendation of advance and do pass.
Committee substitute form,
I'm
right?
sorry, committee substitute for
Yes, sir.
ordinance number 251028.
Is there a second? Move second. Colonel's like, I ain't doing it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the motion passes. We'll hear this on Thursday. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Be done. Turn off the machine.
One second, Sam, we'll clean it.
Howard.